Thank you for joining us on KOAM News Now. Lately, you've been hearing a lot about how your vote is important. It's the way you let the world know what matters to you. When it comes to political races, your vote on one day matters. Here at KOAM, we've been asking for your vote the last several weeks as we've asked questions surrounding the elections using a new tool called InstaPoll.
You've probably seen a poll like this one at the bottom of your screen. We've asked about presidential debates, your voting concerns, and how politics affects your relationships. InstaPoll allows you to interact with other viewers and help shape our news coverage. We've been listening to you and we've learned a lot. We'll take a look back at our questions and your answers that brought us to the end of campaign 2020. But first things first, what is InstaPoll and why is it so important during election season? Today is a day when your vote counts, of course, but we believe it counts all the time. We've been asking you to vote all along to get an idea of the four states' opinions. KOAM's Jesse Irwin gives us a look at how you can get involved.
Over the past month, we've asked all sorts of questions leading up to Election Day, and it's given us a new way of knowing what matters to you, especially in a year like 2020. One of the ways we've been able to do that is through the KOAM News Now InstaPoll, the new interactive way that we take the pulse of the four states live on the air. Now, if you haven't tried it yet, here's how it works. And no, we don't need your email address or for you to download an app. During our newscasts, we've been and will continue to ask questions. We'll let you know when the InstaPoll is open, and all you have to do is pull out your phone or hop on your computer and head to koamnewsnow.com/vote. Then you vote. I mean, it really is that simple. And as everyone around the four states responds, you can watch the votes roll in. Change your mind or hit the wrong button by mistake? Just tap the answer you want, and it'll change your response. InstaPoll has brought you into the conversation when it comes to elections, from asking you how you plan to vote to finding out how stressful election time could be. We asked, and you answered. Your votes have also shaped our coverage, letting us know what your concerns are so we can get the answers you needed to know before you headed to the polls.
Again, to be part of the conversation and help shape the news coverage you see, download the KOAM News Now app or go to koamnewsnow.com. One of our first InstaPoll questions asked, how would you vote in this year's election? 75% of our viewers said they plan to vote in person, while 12% say they'd cast their vote by mail, 8% say they would take part in early voting, and 5% say they didn't plan to vote at all.
Well, I'm ready to go vote. I'm excited to do it in person.
I'm planning on going to the poll like I do every year. There's a lot of absentee voting. We watch it all day long in the courthouse. The halls are full, but I do plan on still going to the poll.
I went ahead and voted already, absentee.
I think it is important to do the in-person if you can, instead of the mail-in.
Voters in Oklahoma and Kansas could take part in early voting this election year, while voters in Missouri could cast their votes in person or by mail with an absentee ballot. According to CNN, more than 98.6 million Americans cast votes prior to Election Day. We asked you about what you thought about early voting opportunities in your state. Nearly half of you, 48%, said you favored expanded early voting chances in your state. 30% of you said early voting should be reduced in your area, and 22% of you said early voting opportunities in your state are fine just how they are. KOAM's Zach Dodds reports on how early voting was taking shape across the four states.
If you don't want the large crowds and you don't want to be standing in line close to people and that kind of thing, then go ahead and do it now.
And that's just what people did. A week away from Election Day, thousands of voters already cast their ballots in southeast Kansas and in southwest Missouri.
All the parties have vested interest in this election.
The Jasper County Clerk reported 4,000 people had voted early in person and another 3,000 voted by mail-in ballot. Election officials predicted a strong turnout for Jasper County.
So we will have way more than double the number of absentee votes just 4 years ago in the previous presidential election, which that election set a record in Jasper County itself.
In Crawford County, election officials say 1 week out, nearly 4,000 people had voted early by mail, while around 500 had come in to vote early in person. Officials in both counties said they hired more poll workers than in past years to process ballots that were cast even prior to the election. And officials speculate turnout overall will be record-breaking. driven by the presidential election.
We are unfortunately a very polarized country, and we have very strong, passionate people on either side of the aisle, and that is going to drive people to the polls.
Zach Dodge joins us now to talk a little bit more about early voting. Zach, you reported more poll workers were hired for this year's election. Where does the money for those workers come from?
Dow, the money for those workers came from, at least for the most part, from the CARES Act. And actually, with additional portions of that money in Jasper County, they were able to hire enough poll workers for actually at the polling locations to have additional workers there, more than they have in previous years.
And besides more workers, what other changes are voters seeing at the polls?
As far as in-person early voting, one of the biggest changes was the fact that they had to limit inside of county clerk's offices to 2 voters at a time. Now that did create some lines, but as far as I could see anyway, they weren't quite as bad as one would think.
All right, Zach, thanks. Some voters have concerns over voting. Our InstaPoll question asked viewers to tell us their election day worries. While 60% of people said they had no concerns, 19% said they were concerned with possible intimidation. 13% said they were concerned with long lines at the polls, and 8% said they were concerned about contracting the virus while voting.